Now let's have the discussion on star delta connection. And here the assumption is primary is HV and secondary side is LV winding. Therefore, now let's consider the bank of 3 single phase transformers and let's give the dot notations. And as these 3 are the HV side winding, so the notations will be in capital letters and the dotted end terminals are A2, B2 and C2, and the non-dot ends on primary side are A1, B1 and C1. And now on secondary side this is LV winding, so the notations will be in smaller case and the dot ends are small a2, small b2 and small c2, and the non-dot ends are given a1, b1 and c1. So now as we are studying the case of delta star connection, means the primary side windings are connected in delta and secondary side windings are connected in star. So now first let's connect the primary side windings in delta, and to obtain the delta connection we are joining the non-dot end terminals of one coil with the dot end terminals of other coil, or we are joining the dot end terminals of one coil with non-dot end terminal of other coil. And here we are joining the non-dot terminal of one coil with dot end terminal of other coil, non-dot end of one coil with dot end terminal of other coil, and similarly non-dot terminal of this coil is connected to dot end terminal of other coil. And here we are taking the connections from dot ends, that is capital A2, capital B2 and capital C2 on primary side. And now coming to the secondary side winding, that is LV winding. Here we are having star connection, and star connection is obtained by joining the dot end terminals of all the 3 coils together and taking the connection from other ends of the coils. So here the common ends could be non-dot end terminals or dot end terminals, and here we are considering the common end terminal as non-dot ends. So let's join the non-dot ends together. So small a1, small b1 and small c1, and take the connections from dot end terminals. So small a2, small b2 and small c2. So this is the one of the possible connection of delta star connection. We are having 4 possible connections of delta star connection, that is we can obtain delta star connection in 4 ways. So this is one of the way, and now we are going to draw the phasor diagram for this type of connection. So for that, let's arrange these windings in horizontal fashion. Let these 3 be the HV windings and let these 3 be the LV windings. These be the dot end terminals. Now let's give the notations. So as these 3 are the HV winding connections, so the notations will be in capital letters. So dot end terminals are A2, B2 and C2, and non-dot end terminals A1, B1 and C1. Now coming to the LV winding, so notations are in smaller case, that is small a2, small b2 and small c2, and non-dot end terminals small a1, small b1 and small c1. Now as HV winding is connected in delta, and to obtain delta we join the non-dot end terminals with dot end terminal. So join the non-dot terminal with dot end terminal, non-dot terminal of one coil with dot end terminal of other coil, and non-dot end terminal with dot end terminal, and taking the connections from dot end terminals, that is capital A2, capital B2 and capital C2. And now coming to the second side, that is LV winding. It is star connected, and this star connection is obtained by joining the non-dot end terminals to a common point and taking the connections from dot end terminals. So let's join the non-dot end terminals small a1, small b1 and small c1 together and take the connections from dot end terminals small a2, small b2 and small c2. This is how we arrange the HV winding and LV winding in horizontal fashion. Now we have to draw the phasor diagrams for this HV winding and LV winding. So first let's draw the phasor diagram for HV winding. So as HV winding is delta connected, that is as primary winding is delta connected, let's take this as VA phasor, and now we need to decide the terminals of primary side VA phasor, as the terminals are A1 and A2, and we are taking the connection from dot and terminal, that is A2. So arrow will point towards the dot and terminal, that is A2. So other end will be A1. Okay, and to A1 B2 is connected. So here we will have B2 terminal. Now let's draw the VB phasor, and we know that for ABC phase sequence in three-phase system, if VA is at an angle 0 degrees, that is VA is taken as reference, then VB will be at an angle minus 120 degrees and VC will be at an angle minus 240 degrees from VA. Therefore, VB will be at an angle minus 120 degrees from VA. So, as VA phasor is like this, so from this phasor at an angle minus 120 degrees, that is in clockwise direction, because minus 120 degrees, there will be VB phasor. So, VB phasor will be along this direction. Let's draw the VB phasor somewhere here. And now let's decide the terminals of primary side VB phasor. As the connection is took from dot and terminal, that is B2. So arrow will point towards B2 terminal. Therefore, other end will be B1. So as A1 is having B2 terminal, therefore draw this phasor like this such that A1 will have B2. So this is VB phasor and other end will be B1. Now let's draw the VC phasor, which will be at an angle minus 240 degrees from VA, or we can say that VC will be at an angle minus 120 degrees from VB. So as this is VB, so from here in clockwise direction at an angle minus 120 degrees, there will be VC like this. So let's consider the VC phasor like this somewhere here. And now let's decide the terminals of primary side VC phasor. And here on primary side we are taking the connections from dot and terminals. So that is here C2. Therefore arrow will point towards dot and terminal, that is C2. And other end will be C1. And now observing winding connection that to B1 there will be C2 connection. Means in phasor diagram to B1 there will be C2 point. Therefore draw this VC phasor such that B1 will have C2 terminal, and therefore this will be C1. So this is how the phasor diagram for delta connection is obtained. But here there is one more important point that to be discussed, that is here in delta connection we must consider the imaginary neutral, and we know that in delta connection there will be no neutral connection, but for reference purpose or for comparison purpose we need to take the neutral connection, because the numerical in vector group symbol will indicate the LV winding phase to neutral voltage displacement with respect to HV winding phase to neutral voltage. Therefore, we need the LV side phase to neutral voltage and HV side phase to neutral voltage. So, as in delta connection there is no neutral connection, therefore we must take the imaginary neutral. Now let's draw the phasor diagram for LV winding on secondary side. So, as this is star connected, and we know that secondary side phasors are drawn parallel to primary side phasors. First, let's draw the secondary side VA phasor parallel to primary side VA phasor. So, if this is the secondary side VA phasor parallel to primary side VA phasor, now we need to decide the direction. So, direction depends on the connection we took on primary side and secondary side. So, as the connection on primary side and secondary side are took from dot and terminals, therefore secondary side phasor direction will be same to that of primary side phasor. So the direction will be same, that is like this. And now we need to decide the terminals of secondary side VA phasor. As the connection is took on dot and terminals, therefore arrow will point towards the dot and terminal, that is A2, and the other end will be A1. Now let's draw the secondary side VB phasor. So let's draw the secondary side VB phasor parallel to primary side VB phasor somewhere here like this, and on primary side and secondary side connections are took on dot ends. Therefore the secondary side VB phasor direction will be same to that of primary side VB phasor. And now we need to decide the terminals of VB phasor, and as the connections are took on dot and terminals, therefore arrow will point towards the dot and terminal. Therefore this will be B2 and the other end will be B1. And observing winding connection that to A1 there is B1 connection. So here to A1 there will be B1. So now place this phasor such that A1 is having B1 terminal. Therefore, this will be the VB phasor. Now let's draw the secondary side VC phasor. So drawing the secondary side VC phasor parallel to primary side VC phasor. And now let's decide the direction of secondary side VC phasor. As the connections on primary side and secondary side are took on dot ends, therefore secondary side VC phasor direction will be same to that of primary side VC phasor. So like this. And now let's decide the secondary side VC phasor terminals. As the connection is took on dot end, therefore arrow will point towards dot end terminal, that is here C2, and the other end will be C1. And observing winding connection that to A1, B1, C1 has connection. So to A1 and B1 there will be C1. So now draw this secondary side VC phasor such that it will have C1 here. So this is the phasor diagram for this type of delta star connection. And now let's identify the vector group symbol for this type of delta star connection. And we know that the first character in vector group symbol is in capital letter, and that will indicate the HV winding connection. And here the HV winding connection is delta, so it is represented with capital D. And now the second character in vector group symbol is in smaller case, and that will indicate the LV winding connection. So here the LV winding connection is star. So to represent that, the second character is in smaller y. And the third position of vector group symbol is a numerical, and that numerical will indicate the LV winding phase to neutral voltage displacement with respect to HV winding phase to neutral voltage, and that is obtained from clock notation. So now come to the phasor diagram and observe that the HV winding phasor diagram is delta connected. So here the phase to neutral voltage is A to N, and from the LV winding phasor diagram the phase to neutral voltage we are taking is small a to N. Okay, we are considering the common N terminal as small n here. So phase to neutral voltage here is small a to N. And now superimpose this diagram on this diagram and observe the phase to neutral voltages of HV winding and LV winding. So if you superimpose, then HV winding phase to neutral voltage will look like this, and LV winding phase to neutral voltage will be like this. And in clock, this HV side phase to neutral voltage is represented with minutes needle, and as HV side phase to neutral voltage is taken as reference, so minutes needle is always shown pointing towards 12. If suppose this is the clock, and as the HV winding phase to neutral voltage is represented with minutes needle, and as it is taken as reference, so minutes needle is always shown pointing towards 12, and the LV winding phase to neutral voltage is represented with hours needle in clock. So now place this diagram in clocks such that the HV winding phase to neutral voltage will point towards the 12. Then the diagram will look like this. So now the secondary side phase to neutral voltage will point towards 11, means the numerical in vector group symbol here is 11 because this represents 11 o'clock, and which will indicate the LV winding phase to neutral voltage displacement with respect to HV winding phase to neutral voltage, and that is given by the angle between the minutes needle and hours needle in clock. And here the angle between minutes needle and hours needle is 30 degrees, and as the angle is measured anti-clockwise, so it is given positive sign. Therefore, for this type of delta star connection, we are getting a phase displacement of plus 30 degrees. That is, here with this connection we are having 30 degrees lead phase displacement. Now let's draw the second possible connection of delta star connection. In that, what we are doing means we are leaving the primary side connection as it is, and the change we are making here is on secondary side. That is, instead of joining the common terminals A1, B1 and C1, we are joining the common terminals A2, B2, C2 and taking the connection from non-dot ends. In this case, we took the connections from dot end terminals, and now in the second possible case, we are taking the connections from non-dot ends. Now let's see that. Therefore, in second possible connection of delta star connection, here we are joining the dot end terminals together and taking the connections from non-dot ends on secondary side, that is on LV side. As we left the HV winding connection as it is, so the phasor diagram will be same. Now let's draw the phasor diagram for LV winding connection, and it is known that the secondary side phasors are drawn parallel to primary side phasors. So let's draw the secondary side VA phasor parallel to primary side VA phasor. And now let's decide the direction of secondary side VA phasor, and that direction depends on the connections we took from the primary side and secondary side. Therefore, observe that on primary side connections are took from dot end terminals, and on secondary side connections are took from non-dot end terminals. Therefore, the direction of secondary side VA phasor will be in opposite direction to primary side VA phasor. Therefore, the direction will be like this. Now, let's decide the terminals of secondary side VA phasor. And here in winding connection, observe that the connection is took from non-dot end terminal, that is A1, as arrow will point towards the connection we took from. Therefore, the terminal here is A1, the other end will be A2. Now let's draw the secondary side VB phasor. So let's draw the secondary side VB phasor somewhere here parallel to primary side VB phasor. And now let's decide the direction of secondary side VB phasor. So here on primary side connections are took on dot end, and on secondary side the connections are took on non-dot end. Therefore, secondary side VB phasor direction will be opposite to primary side VB phasor. Therefore, the direction will be like this. Now let's decide the terminals of secondary side VB phasor. So as the connections are took from non-dot end terminals, therefore arrow will point towards the connection we took from, that is here B1. Therefore, the other end will be B2. And observing winding connection that to A2 terminal there is B2. Therefore, to A2 we will have B2 connection. So draw this secondary side VB phasor such that the A2 terminal will have B2 like this. Now let's draw the secondary side VC phasor. So let's draw the secondary side VC phasor parallel to primary side VC phasor somewhere here like this. And now we need to decide the direction, and here on primary side connections are took from dot end terminal, and on secondary side connections are took from non-dot end terminal. Therefore, secondary side VC phasor direction will be opposite to primary side VC phasor. So the secondary side VC phasor direction will be like this. Now we need to decide the terminals of secondary side VC phasor, and here the connections are took from non-dot end terminals, that is C1. Therefore, arrow will point towards C1. The other end will be C2. And observing winding connection that to A2 and B2 there is C2 connection. So here there will be C2. Now draw the secondary side VC phasor such that here it will have C2 connection. So draw as it is the secondary side VC phasor. And let's give the common notation to this common connection. So let this be small n, as this is LV winding. Now let's identify the vector group symbol for this connection. As we know that the first character in vector group symbol is in capital letter, and that will indicate the HV winding connection. So as the HV winding connection is delta, to represent that it is taken in capital D. And the second character in vector group symbol is in smaller case, and that will represent the LV winding connection. And here the LV winding connection is star, and to represent that small y. And now we need to decide the third portion of vector group symbol, which is a numerical, and that you can obtain by observing these phasor diagrams. And that numerical will indicate the LV side phase to neutral voltage displacement with respect to HV side phase to neutral voltage. Therefore, we need the LV winding phase to neutral voltage and HV winding phase to neutral voltage. From HV winding phasor diagram, capital A to N is the phase to neutral voltage, and this is taken as a reference, and this is indicated by minutes needle in clock. And as this is taken as a reference, the minutes needle in clock is always shown pointed towards 12. So if you take this clock, and this is the minutes needle which is shown always pointed towards 12. And coming to the secondary side phasor diagram, A1N is the phase to neutral voltage, and LV side phase to neutral voltage is represented with hours needle in clock. Therefore, first let's superimpose this diagram on this diagram and observe the phase to neutral voltage of HV winding and LV winding. So if you superimpose HV winding phase to neutral voltage and LV winding phase to neutral voltage will look like this. And now if you place this diagram in clock such that the phase to neutral voltage will point towards 12, then the diagram will look like this. So hours needle will be pointing towards 5, which will indicate 5 o'clock, and from this we can say that the numerical in vector symbol is 5, and which will indicate the LV side phase to neutral voltage displacement with respect to HV side phase to neutral voltage, and that is given by the angle between minutes needle and hours needle. And if you measure in anti-clockwise direction, this will be minus 150 degrees, or if you measure in anti-clockwise direction, that will be 210 degrees. Therefore, from first possible connection we got a phase displacement of plus 30 degrees, and with second possible connection we got a phase displacement of 210 degrees.